Councillor Steve Cremoyson, the chair of the forum, and I would like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Kings Barton Forum on Tuesday the 11th of March, and the time is 6:02. This meeting is being held virtually and in accordance with Council's rules for virtual meetings. Councillors are reminded that although this meeting has been held remotely, they are regarded as being present in a meeting of the Council and they should observe the normal rules of behaviour. First of all, please can I ask everyone present in this virtual meeting that your microphones remain muted and your camera turned off whilst you're not addressing the meeting, as this will reduce background noise and avoid any unintentional disturbances. And can members please ensure that their mobile phones are now switched off or on silent, as I have just done. This meeting is live streamed from the Council's YouTube channel, and the recording will also be available after the meeting, and subtitles can be switched on, and advice on how to turn these on is set out on our website. Members and officers, where appropriate for each item, please indicate that you wish to speak or to raise a point of order or explanation by raising your hand using the hand icon on your screen. And I will then invite you to speak at the appropriate time. Each member will be invited to speak in turn. Therefore, I would encourage all members to keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. So let's move on to the actual business part. So first off, Nancy, can we just have an update on the apologies? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I've received apologies from Councillor David Tozer from Littleston and Harestock Parish Council. I haven't had any other apologies.
Okay, and I think we have Councillor Waters is from Headbourne Worthy Parish Council is represented by Maria Gracia Leone. I'm not sure if you're actually on the call yet, but hopefully Maria will join us shortly. Okay, moving on to disclosures of interest. Could I just ask for any disclosure of interest from members and officers in relation to the matters to be discussed? And I'm expecting the county councillors will all want to declare their interests. Councillor Porter.
Thank you. I'm declaring a non-pecuniary personal interest, as I'm also a county councillor as well as a city councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. And Councillor Warwick?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Mine's kind of vice versa. So I'm here as a county councillor, but I'm also a city councillor for the Badger Farm, Oliver's Battery Ward. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Todd?
Yes, I'm in a similar position. I'm here as a county councillor representing the Winchester Westgate ward, but I need to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest as a city councillor. I'm not here as a city councillor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Todd. Right, so let's move on to, well, skip over Chairman's announcements, as I don't think I have anything I wish to say that I can't say at a more appropriate point later in the meeting. So the minutes of the previous meeting, I take it members have had a chance to have a quick read through that and can confirm that the minutes are a correct and accurate record. Can I ask for, if you just want to open your mics and just say agreed, or if you want to disagree, say you disagree.
Agreed.
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 Okay, I think the agreed's overwhelmed any person who was there wanted to disagree. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, there was one item on there, and I would we probably want to have a quick follow-up on, but I'll just mention it to the Carla delegation. This was in relation to the phase 2 sports pitches, where there was talk of a consultation. I'm sure you're going to cover it in your session later on, or at least you can say a few words about how you've resolved that matter, because I know you have resolved it. So just want to make sure we close that item out. Okay, thank you. Right, so let's move on to public participation. And first up, we have Mike Slynn of the KBRA. And I think, Mike, we've circulated your report. So would you like to, are there anything you want to say in addition to us having read the report, or points you want to emphasise? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Not really. I won't spell it all out. Just to point out that the first 2 points are about the request to review, which has now been delayed already for more than 2 years, and we're pointing out that I think it must have been an administrative error that at least 30 houses in Kings Barton are not in the same not in the same parish council as the others, and secondly that now the number of residents in Kings Barton greatly exceeds the number in the rest of the parish council. The third point was really a request that if somebody in the city council could just confirm what actually happened 16 years ago. We think we know, but I'd be grateful, as I pointed out in this memo, if somebody could confirm or otherwise that what we understand is correct. Then we had a very...
Is that in relation to the community centre?
No, that's the third point, is about what happened 16 years ago, which ended up with a decision to close Andover Road and move all the traffic through the centre of the Kings Barton development. So,
okay, right. I haven't got that on my version of the report, but as I said to you, almost every meeting, Mike, the purpose of this meeting is to work with the relevant authorities and Carla to deliver the master plan, not to go back over old and ancient history. So if there's a specific question you want to ask there, please, you can write to either your personal county council, not your personal one, but your county councillor who covers your area, or you can write to Councillor Porter, your personal county councillor is Councillor Warwick, who's here, or you can write to Councillor Porter. I'm sure they will be able to answer your questions, but I don't want to get us distracted on that because that's frankly ancient history.
Okay, thank you. The fourth point was that we had a very useful consultation, thanks to Carla, about the community centre layout, and our understanding, talking with Viv Hill, is that it would be possible for Carla to increase the height, the roof level of the main room, so that games like badminton could be played satisfactorily. Hopefully that's agreed. The fifth point was just to record that we're getting on well with Anthem, sorting out some problems that have occurred, and that's moving forward fine. That's on the issue of day-to-day management of the estate. Then this is a general question that may well not obey your rule, Chair, but the Planning Commission for Development requires that the park and ride site be built and open prior to 650 dwellings being occupied. We're asking whether the City Council will impose this rule on Carla. The sixth point is about the mugger. I'm sure this has been discussed many times before, but will the City Council now insist that a full-size mugger be built near to the railway line, because the one that has been built is too small? And then finally, just to record that we have responded to the LCWIP comments on what should happen on Andover Road.
Okay, good. Okay, right. We're going to cover, Carla are going to talk about the community building as part of their session a little bit later on, and I'm sure they will pick up that point that you've raised there in relation to roof levels. This is not the forum where we can really talk about the relationship with Anthem. We haven't got that on our agenda. With respect to your first two items on your report, it wasn't actually an admin area, it's just the way that parishes were laid out. So Headbourne Worthy happens to end where it does, and St Barnabas, which is not a parish, obviously it's a city council ward, also has its boundary with Headbourne Worthy where it is. At some point, well, I think the way you can pursue this is through making sure by writing to your city council ward councillors, who are your representatives on the town forum, and writing to them to let them know your views. And if you are writing on behalf of KBRA, you can also write to Headbourne-Worthy Parish Council. You might want to do both of those in terms of what you believe the outcome should be, and what you'd like to see happen there. And those two bodies will take that into account as part of conversations which are going on as a result of LGR. And with respect to the mugger, well, perhaps Carla can pick that up later on in terms of what they are planning to do. And with respect to the park and ride, we have reported back to the Kings Barton Committee the response, the position of the City Council. We reported it back some time ago, a good few weeks ago. The position hasn't changed, and it's highly dependent on having the spine road going through Kings Barton as per the plan. And as I'm sure you know, if you've looked at the notes, you will know there is an update from the County Council that states there's a new trigger point. We will get onto that a bit later on with Carla. And that new trigger point is, you know, several years away, probably, unless suddenly Carla build a lot more houses. They are building a lot of houses at the moment. We're going to be some time away, and we can hear back from the City Council once we are clear exactly when that spine road will come through. Okay, hopefully that tackles most of those points. If I can move on now to the Headbourne-Worthy Parish Council report. I'm not sure if I've seen Maria joining us. Let me just check.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Hello, Maria. Good to have
Hi.
you here. And thank you. I know you have a busy life, and thank you for stepping in place of Councillor Watter. Right. All members on this committee should have had a chance to read the Headbourne-Worthy report, and I understand, Maria, unless you want to talk through specific items, that you're quite happy just to take it as read, and hopefully councillors will have any questions.
I think everyone, yeah, so if anyone has any questions, but in regard to what Mike just said, we had a meeting yesterday and we decided that the Headbourne-Worthy Parish Council will seek to have the anomaly of the border by Winchester sorted out. We don't know the timing, but we are in the process of writing a letter in order to discover when and how this border can be sorted out.
Yes.
I don't think that I need to add anything else for now, but I'm here to get any questions. We're really positive with the relationship we have with Carla, and the fact that the community building actually has responded to a lot of the suggestions that we made, especially in the enlarging the main hall so it's more usable by the community. And we're really happy that a community building should be delivered by 26, if I'm not wrong. So no.
Okay. So if you're happy to take questions, I think I've seen Councillor Porter have a question. So Councillor Porter, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, please. I think that Kings Barton, I know that the parish council has a committee that's been looking at the hall, and you've made huge progress and you're really pleased with that. But I think the point that the Kings Barton Residents Association, or certainly Mike, was making about raising the roof, literally, is an interesting one. And I wondered, and in view of the challenge that everybody has finding sports facilities, I wondered if you had thought about that and considered that in your planning for the community hall, or whether you decided not to.
No, we had long discussion with Carla about the height, and I don't think it's possible at the moment. I don't know if new things have happened, because when we submit our suggestion was just about the width of the rooms, because the discussion about the height of the building were previous, and they always respond to the fact that they couldn't really raise the roof.
So with your permission, Chairman, because the issue is not just the height but also the space for space heating,
yeah,
and all sorts of other aspects of it, but Mike seems to have a different view, that Carla had a conversation about that, and I just wondered, will the parish council be the final arbiter of what is going to be there with Carla? Is that how it will work? Because that you've had a committee looking at that.
I think that's as it should be working for now, because we have the working group on the building, from which I am part, and then we are working, and in the next couple of months we also to look at how to utilize the building nowadays in site. So we will have more meeting with Carla and more meeting among us to see how the building can be utilized as best.
Okay, I will leave that with the conversation later, but obviously Mr. Slynn feels he has a different agreement than you do, but I can see.
Yeah,
exactly.
That was the first time I heard it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, right, and I'm sure we can count on Viv and Alison to comment on that subject later on when we get to their section. Okay, you know, I think there is a question I have, but it relates, Maria, to the bus service, and as I'm involved in it usually, you know, Councillor Porter and Councillor Di Stefano and myself are usually involved in it. So I have a question, but it's probably best I just raise that question next time the three of us get together. So I won't bore everybody with that question here, so we can pass on that. Councillor Cunningham, you've got a question. Councillor Cunningham.
Trying to get my microphone on.
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, sorry. Was it not envisaged that the residents of the care home would be frequent users of the community hall? But now, of course, the care home is on the other side of the Winchester Avenue. So my question is whether there will be a crossing point at that spot.
I hope so, but that is a question for the planner. It's certainly something we will request, that everyone can access the community building in the most safer way possible. But I think it's more a question for the designer than the parish. As a parish, we will make sure that there will be crossing points.
Yeah, I think you're right, Councillor Leone, that it's a question for Carla later on, and that would need to be negotiated with the county council along with other crossing points. So but it's a fair point, Councillor Cunningham, and it's a question that has been asked of me, and so thank you for raising that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, just looking around to see if there's any further questions for you. I think we're done. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Right, in that case, let's move on to an officer subject. Sorry, I need to just check. I think first up, Ruth Beard.
Yeah.
I think you're leading on the S106 update, aren't you? So, so if I could just sort of introduce that, as it were. This report is up on the portal, so hopefully members have had a chance to scan through this and have thought through some questions, any questions they have in relation to the triggers on the S106. I should say that the report does not reflect the latest statement from the County Council in relation to the triggers around the Spine Road, but and the junctions at either end. But over to you, Ruth. Would you like to just talk us through the S106?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was going to give an update also on a few other things that we're dealing with at the moment, if that's okay.
Can I, Ruth, I'm sorry to butt in, but you are very, very quiet. Last time,
now? Is that better?
only a little bit.
Don't know what else I can do.
Is anyone else hearing? Is anyone else finding it that it's
it's quiet, but we can hear. We can hear, but
okay.
It's quiet.
Okay, Ruth, let's try and persist with this, and we'll just have to be very quiet and hope the dog doesn't bark.
Okay, sorry, I'll try and speak loudly. I'm just going to pick up on a few other things that we're dealing with as well, if that's okay.
Of course.
The first one is just to say we're still discharging various conditions to agree the details for a few phases in the development, mainly phase 3A and the residential part of phase 2B. Details like landscaping, hard landscaping, materials, street furniture, those sort of finer details which still are to be agreed. So that process is ongoing. We've currently got 9 conditions in for determination. So that's sort of going on in the background, if you like. So in terms of the 106 table, obviously we published this last time, has been updated and was circulated, yes, on the committee papers last week. The key change, I suppose, from the last time we circulated this is that we now have an update in terms of the council tax records for the site, which indicate the level of occupation. So on the 4th of March, we're told there were 675 units registered for council tax on the site. This means that there are quite a few more triggers in the Hampshire County Council Section 106 agreement that have now been triggered by the scheme, because there are quite a few triggers which relate to the occupation of 650 units. So those triggers mainly relate to the construction of the Winchester Avenue and also junction improvements across the site. As you know, Steve, the County Council officers aren't here today, but have issued the statement, which is on, I think was published as an update to the committee papers yesterday, which is online, which hopefully people will have had a chance to read. I suppose the headline to take away from that is that Carla have been working with the County Council on providing detailed survey information, seeking to justify to delay the trigger for those works up to 1,000 occupations on the site. So that's the kind of latest position there. Just checking. So basically that change will be kind of done via a deed of variation to the Hampshire County Council Section 106 for the site. And the drafting of that agreement and the details of how those triggers are amended is basically ongoing at the moment, and that's the latest position that we have on that. Right. So I'm going to pause there. I know Rob wanted to pick up on a few more issues, so I don't know if you wanted to take questions now or you wanted Rob to carry on with the other key planning points.
I take it Rob's on the call somewhere.
Yes, I am, okay. Chair. Good evening.
Rob, bearing in mind what you want to cover, is it better hear your part first, and then we'll have a chat about any questions around the S106?
Yes, I'll continue if that's okay, Chair. It's just some short updates. So we heard about the consultation that's taken place on the community centre, and I'll leave that to Carla to provide an update. Obviously, just to make everyone aware, that is gearing up for a submission to the planning authority in the form of a planning application. But I'll allow Carla to provide an update on that. And the same for the multi-use games area, the Mugger on 2A as well. There are conversations ongoing regarding the provision of a further Mugger and the technical details surrounding that. But again, Carla may provide more details on that. My final point was the Kings Barton page on Winchester City Council's website. It has been kept up to date over the years. It has recently been updated as of yesterday, I believe. So that's now quite a useful tool just to show which phases are completed, what's under construction, what's coming up. So it's quite a useful tool to use, and what we will do is we'll update that before just before every forum meeting as well, just so it has that regular update and input. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and welcome back from holiday as well. It would be very helpful if you could circulate a link to that page. I'm sure we can probably find it, but if you circulate it to members, at least we'll all make sure we're looking at the same page. And it may trigger some questions, so that would be great if you could. Okay, right, can I just put it out to members, any questions over the officer update on the S106 and those points that or the conditions for that matter, and also any points that any questions around what Rob has just talked us through? Councillor Porter.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. And you mentioned you were just starting conditions about 3A and the street furniture. And we've had some conversations with Dawn about this because they've started to install really helpful bike and walking bollards on the bike lane sections. But assuming that 3A goes in along Morse Road, does it go in just once or twice from two different points? And when people come out of that section, there are some bike bollards, but not everywhere. And it would be useful to know if your intention is to ask for bike bollards at every possible opportunity, particularly between 24 and 28, because that's where the works traffic goes in and out. And that appears to be, they put one on the northern side of it, but not the southern side. And actually, if you're coming out of Morse Road, you may be tempted to take the shortcut along the bike route. And I'm very concerned about the inconsistency of it. So if you're on a side road and you're driving, you think you're driving towards the main road and then discover you're coming to a bit that's a bike bit, how do people know that that is effectively a no-through road? So the condition is really important to me about this, because it could mean that you unwittingly end up on a bit that's you're not supposed to be on and have to do some sort of 3-point turn or something. It's a little bit complicated. So I just wondered if you've considered that in the condition. I'd expected highways to have sorted this out, but I don't think it is.
Do you want me to come back on this, Chair?
Yes, please, Ruth. Sorry, I should have.
Yeah, I think I've only recently had one of the street furnished conditions. It may have been 3A through. I do remember it having some bollards around the edges of the phase. But it's probably better if I take it away and review where we are and what we've already consented and what's still due to come forward, if that's okay. We could definitely bear that in mind going
That would
forward.
be really helpful.
Yeah.
Dawn at Carla offered to do a walk around, but I think it feels like it needs an officer there, because it's pretty critical to get it right the first time. It's pretty annoying to be cementing in a bollard in the wrong place.
Yeah, no, I completely understand the point and agree. So yes, more than happy to arrange that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Porter and Ruth. Councillor Morris, you've got a question.
Yes, it's firstly with Winchester Avenue. Do we have any sort of ETA of when it will be linked, completed and adopted under the new schedule? And secondly, the northern part of Andover Road is due to be closed for about 21 weeks this year. And I'm sure many members of the public will be asking why that isn't a convenient time for the works on the Northern Junction to be done at the same time, because that would have the least disruption, both for yourselves and for members of the public.
Right. Carla, Alison and Viv, I know you've prepared some remarks and comments in relation to your plans. Do you think it's best handled after you've had a chance to talk us through your plans for Winchester Avenue, or do you want to take it now?
Potentially afterwards, Chair.
Okay, I thought
it might be easier to, once we've done our update and in terms of dates and timescales and triggers and what we're looking at, perhaps we can pick up that point afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, I thought that might be the case. So, Councillor Morris, if you can keep us honest, we'll try and make sure we cover that in the later stage. Councillor Porter, you've got a second question.
I have. This is to Rob, which is that you made a statement of further technical details on that. And I wondered, I know that the Kings Barton Committee of Headbourne Worthy in their report say KBC will be approaching the appropriate authorities to supply the extra funding for a larger mugger. We'll be working with Cara for this to be installed. Is that in your line of sight as well?
Thank you, Councillor Porter, and thank you, Chair. Not at the moment. So the conversations that we've been having with Carla around the more technical details, it hasn't extended to that point by the parish council just yet. But yeah, obviously I've seen the same report, so we can carry that forward as well.
So that can be taken forward between you and the parish council.
Yeah, I'll form part of the discussions with Carla as well, because we're continuing to discuss the mugger too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I am not seeing any further questions. So just before I'm just going to scan through the S106 and just pick up. It's more about just identifying a few features so that we've got them on our radar screen for future Kings Barton forums, because if we wait until we are right up on the trigger point, that's almost too late to track it. So in section 7.8, it highlights that the community centre is due at 800 units. I know many of us know that already, but it's worth just keeping that in mind, that that's the trigger point for the 800 the community centre. There is, I'm sure there's some in here around county council contributions for education. I'm just struggling to find them at the minute. And although they're not tangible things that we notice when we walk around, but they are presumably being handled by the county council and Carla. So I think there's a secondary education contribution of 3 million coming up at 750 units. So I'm sure Councillor Warwick and Councillor Todd and Councillor Porter have probably got this on your radar screen in terms of just making sure that County Council is playing its role with Carla on that. I'm sure they're very keen to move forward things which are about receiving money. Right, that's those. I'll skip over the bus side. There is one around the car club scheme. And I think there's a trigger to review it at 700, which is not that far away. So I'm going to suggest we have the car club scheme as just one of our agenda items for the June meeting coming up. I'm not going to suggest we talk about it now, but I presume that's a Carla issue. I'm not aware of either council having responsibility for the car club. So just to let you know, I think I'll be asking for that in the June agenda, unless there are other issues which completely overwhelm the time that we have. Right, and obviously the main items which we are all aware of is the trigger points for the Winchester Avenue and the North and South junctions, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a few minutes' time. So that was it from me in terms of things I noted from the S106. Right, let's move on if we can. To Carla. Fabulous. Viv and Alison, and just so that all members here know that I primed you with a sort of sub-agenda through Rob and Ruth, I think the topics that I'm hoping you're going to be able to talk to are the Winchester Avenue North and South junctions, the neighbourhood centre, any plans that you can reveal to us or give us, set our expectations. If you could talk about the community building, which is due at the 800 trigger, an update on the 2B sports pitches, and I think I'd also like a quick comment, if I can, around the phase 2B access and why this is required. So, but start with the big ones first, Winchester Avenue.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to share a few files here to talk at and hopefully provide a bit of a visual information for the wider team. And before I do that, just as by way of an introduction, and my colleague, or our colleague Rupert Woodcock, has also joined the call as well as a sort of from a technical team working alongside Ian Curry on the technical delivery of the road. So should there be any more detailed questions, Rupert may be able to to answer them. If not, it'll be the double act tonight of Alison and myself. Before I share, I also wanted to mention that that demonstrating our commitment to the city centre, we 2 weeks ago we opened our new office in just off Hyde Street. So we've been there for 2 weeks now. So Carl have now got a presence in the city centre, which is really exciting. Great news for the business, great news for Winchester, and great news that will be only a stone's throw from the development, so able to act quickly or get down there and see how work is progressing. And very exciting times, and certainly a much greater lunchtime opportunities than the Greg's Bakery have up in Staines upon Thames. So delighted to be in Winchester, and that's for the long term. So some light-hearted news there. And
so Dave,
I'm
is that in the High Street or in Hyde Street?
Hyde. Well, the office is off Victoria Street and Hyde Street, so it's just
okay, I know.
It's 1.5 minutes from the station, and no doubt over the course of the coming weeks, months, I'm sure many of you will have an opportunity to come and visit for a coffee and sit down and meet us and the team down there at a point in time, which would be great.
Good.
So on to business matters. Let me just share. I've got a few slides to share here. So this is a bit of an update, an introductory update from Ian, just with some commentary and bullet points on how we're progressing with the Andover Road works, or Winchester Avenue works, I should say. So one of the questions was when we're connecting the phases. So we're scheduled to complete the element of Winchester Avenue that connects phase 1B and 2A by the end of March. So works are well underway on that, and we're the 11th of March today as we sit here. So we're on for 2 or 3 weeks completing that connection. Says here that will be constructed to bind a course, which will be a suitable condition for pedestrians and cyclists and vehicle traffic, including buses, should they start coming down that route. The final wearing course will need to be put on at a later date, and hopefully shortly after that particular date. Southern Junction, as exists on Manny Road, will remain as the access and egress to Kings Barton development for the short term, until such time that Andover Road formally closes and the whole of the Winchester Avenue is open. And then third bullet point there, following completion of the link between 1B and 2A, the remedial works will start in earnest on the Winchester Avenue element, particularly in those completed residential phases. There's some further work to do to the realignment of the roundabout in the south, and all these works are scheduled to take about 6 months. The 1B remedial works will commence following that, and expected to complete this time next year. So we should have a final top course in a year from now. And then fifth bullet point down, construction will progress on the link from phase 1B up to Harestock Junction, and these are on-site works, so works within our red line. I think you would have seen that we've already commenced those works, and we expected to complete those by the end of October. And then we can concurrently also put the link into Wellhouse Lane. And work on the Park and Ride light will start in August this year, finishing late October. So all those works are either in progress, started on site, and well underway in terms of technical approvals as well. The off-site works, and this was a question raised shortly, and those are works. Most of the works need to happen to Andover Road are currently programmed in for later in 2026, subject to approval, as always, from HEC Highways, and of course road closure and diversion routes need to be planned in, and we are having those discussions with HCC currently, and clearly Highways England works to Junction 9 will impact that programme and our ability to get on there and deliver those works as well. The question I think was raised earlier in the call about Andover Road closing for 21 weeks, and whilst I haven't been close to the detail, I'm sure I don't believe it will be possible but we can take this away and confirm that those works, and I believe therefore services within the road corridor can happen at the same time as the Hairstock Road junction closing and us implementing all the other works that we need to connect the road. But we can take that away, and I'm sure those conversations are being had between ourselves and Hampshire County Council in terms of delivery of the infrastructure that's needed. So following many meetings, discussion with officers, it is a complex junction. The elongated highways approval process, they do take time and timescale to formalise highway agreements, but significant progress has been made in respect to the technical approvals to allow works to start, as mentioned on each of the bullet points above. If perhaps I'll just keep going for now, and I'm sure there'll be questions that come out of that. Wanted to share this high-level Gantt chart. Hopefully you're seeing the Gantt chart on screen at the moment. So this has been prepared in relation to some high-level indicative neighbourhood centre implementation programme that we're looking at. So the red line indicates where we are at the moment. We're in Q1 2025. So next steps for us are to submit a planning application for the residential phase 3B reserve matters application. Work on the temporary sales centre will be starting on site imminently, and following that approval, with a view to that being open in Q3 2025. Specifically in relation to the community centre.
Interrupt, Viv. Any chance you can just make the scale a bit larger?
Of course.
And also, can I ask a question? Is this going to be shared with us afterwards, or have we just got to?
Yeah, we're happy. No, we're happy to share this with you afterwards once we've made sure that the wider team are all happy with the dates that we're committing to here. But this shows that sort of, I suppose, that what we're aiming to deliver over the coming, in terms of particularly the community centre, what we're aiming to deliver over the course of the next year at least, up to that 800th occupation there as a trigger there. So we think that the 800 will hit the 800th occupation Q2 2026 at high level. So that is when we are intending to hand over the community centre and have that completed for handover. Working back from there, we're working on an 8-month build programme for the community centre. So we're anticipating starting on site Q3 this year on the community centre. That being well, we're looking to submit the detailed planning application for the community centre alongside around 40 residential homes just to the south of the community centre in Q2 2025, so a month or so away from submitting that application. We're assuming that we have a planning determination period of about 12 weeks or 3 months leading up to that. So we're on track for delivering the community centre in time for the 800th occupation. I'm conscious there'll be conversations about specification and what kit goes into that building. So there will be a piece of work there which we'll need to do following submission of the detailed proposal, which will probably happen in that time frame there, so we can deliver in line with our obligations there. So it is a high level programme, but it shows that we are currently on track to deliver the community centre as expected.
Can I just pause you, Viv? Councillor Todd, do you have a question, or do you want to get?
Yeah, I just had a question about this whole section here. Now, I don't have in my head the exact layout of what we're talking about, but presumably, are you saying is this the sales centre in the yard and the community centre? I mean, presumably are they all fairly central?
They are.
And
yes.
okay. And is there going to be parking for them? Because
Yes.
the whole thing of temporary parking and the ability to park in the centre, I think, could resolve a whole bunch of other issues, even if it's not the final parking solution.
Yeah, each of the there will be some temporary parking for customers visiting the sales centre. I can't recall the exact number of spaces, but there'll be, call it, I don't know, it might be 8 spaces for visitors to the sales centre. The community centre itself will have its own parking, dedicated parking, and alongside that, the nursery provision, which we're looking to include as part of that full application, will also have its own dedicated parking, but that is likely to be for staff only for the nursery. But the community centre will have a number of spaces, and that might be in the region of, again, 10 to 12 parking spaces, but to be confirmed. Once we plan the environment around the community centre. At the moment, we're focusing our attention on the detailed design of the community centre building and what's happening inside that footprint of the building at present, and then we'll be putting that onto the site layout and planning the parking and the landscaping, the detail around that. But yes, each of the buildings, each of the mixed uses will have their own dedicated parking for those buildings as well.
And I suppose a question that goes with that, just for understanding, and I don't have the full details of the layout in front of me, but how easy will it be to walk from there to the school?
Very easy, because there'll be and I think the question was raised by Councillor Cunningham earlier, that there is a dedicated pedestrian crossing point which we're putting in immediately outside the community centre. So that will provide a crossing location to both the sales centre and customer reception and the community centre in the short term, as those sort of mixed uses, I suppose, coming forward first as part of the neighbourhood centre. So yeah, there's a dedicated pedestrian crossing across Winchester Avenue, and that will then provide a link to the school, either through the existing road network or the public right of way, or we could look at providing a direct route straight across from that crossing point to the front entrance of the school. Conscious of that route to the school from the crossing will at some point become part of the wider neighbourhood centre delivery, including food store, retail units, and extra care and landscaping around that. So probably need an interim solution there at some point, but it's a very good point to make sure we can get that dedicated pedestrian connection to the school.
I think that interim connection sounds like a really good idea, and particularly if you're putting it near a pedestrian crossing, which is presumably is that like this is part of the long-term design pedestrian crossing, or is it like an interim one, and as you move towards the final design it will be different? So this is the final pedestrian crossing. So I'd have thought, in terms of creating good habits, the more we can do to have a straight walking route to the school and other such things sounds.
Yeah, the detailed proposals for those crossing points along the Winchester Avenue were approved as part of the Phase 2B works, and so those technical approvals are well underway, and many of those crossings and bell mouths into mixed-use parcels are being implemented as we speak. So that what you'll see is the final design solution coming forward over the next coming months.
Okay, that's great. I can see that Councillor Porter wants to follow up. She's probably got better insight than I have on this, but that's really helpful. Thank you.
So before I just bring Councillor Porter in, Viv, I think you're only part way through what you were going to say, aren't you?
That's right.
I'm sort of conscious that sometimes if we interrupt too soon, we can end up going down rat holes that you're going to answer anyway in a few minutes. Councillor Porter, do you want to? Is there a specific follow-up?
Happy to wait. Happy to wait.
Okay. So Viv, if you'd just like to just carry on where you were, if you can.
Yes. So really, I mean, this I suppose the focus of sharing this was that it shows our commitment to delivery over the next year or two, and clearly there are a wider delivery of other mixed uses which need to come forward. Just worth saying, and I know we've iterated it in the past previously, that certainly in respect of the food store, the retail units and the pub, they are all the ability for those to come forward is all dependent on Winchester Avenue opening. So the sort of, which is why to a degree we can deliver the community. That's why we're in control of delivering the community building, and that's why we can ensure that we can deliver and meet the trigger points there set within the section 106. The other mixed uses are dependent on the technical approvals and delivery of Winchester Avenue. So those will follow, and the end users that are likely that we like to sign up with commercially will want the comfort that they can see the work's taking place, that we've got the 278 approvals in place, and that there's a firm commitment for us to get that road open, and then we can all move forward to delivering the place that we want within the neighbourhood centre. So that's really all I want to say on delivery timescales, and then wanted to share a couple of slides just on the community centre itself. So this is a little bit of an update following on from the public consultation 2 weeks ago. So we are looking at progressing. We noted some of the concerns and comments, or no concerns. I think it was received very positively. There were some comments about the detailed interface with the avenue on the community centre. This shows I suppose a work in progress update on the floor plans and elevations that we shared at the community centre. And I'm just going to have to move my screen around to make sure I can scroll through some of these. So this is a slight amendment to the building that was shared at the public consultation, and noted Mike Slynn's comments about looking at volume within the community centre and the ability for it to deliver other recreational sports uses such as badminton. We are looking at increasing the roof pitch, and this shows an increased roof pitch so that we have a little bit more volume, or have more volume within the hall space. So it was the comment at the public consultation was, yes, we can look to accommodate that. There will need to be that will need to be factored in as well in terms of structural integrity of the building. I think Councillor Porter raised concerns about heating the space and volumetric heating of that space. But yes, it is possible to look at. We can go and have a look at the feasibility of increasing that roof pitch so that recreational badminton might be able to be accommodated within that hall space. So this is an update on the community building elevation and 3D view that we're preparing at the moment. And this shows a slight variation to the plan that was shared at the public consultation. We're looking to some of our own internal comments we're looking to increase provide a bit more of a generous lobby area. So what we looked is this is a slight reconfiguration of some of the zones that we shared at the recent public consultation to make it more welcoming and give it a strong presence on the corner of Winchester Avenue. So for context, this elevation here where my cursor is now is faces onto the Winchester Avenue. So the ability to provide some access onto the road for pop-up shops and the like, or pop-up mixed-use accommodation that could serve within the community building was part of the brief from Headbourne Worthy Parish Council. It's looking at some of those mixed uses that we might be able to accommodate within that building. For the wider forum, the community building, the hall itself has significantly changed shape following from the original approval. So this is a much more usable space and in line with the comments, in line with the brief that was suggested by the parish council. So we think this is going a very long way to hitting all the requirements that the parish council put back to us in terms of how the building could be laid out and the facilities that it needs to deliver. And I'm sure we're in a position to share this for a wider comment, but we would like to fix the detail and fix the design reasonably quickly so that we're in a position to submit that as a detailed scheme coming forward as part of the new application. And then I think there were some other visuals to share in elevation terms as a work in progress, but really probably to leave you that image while Alison I know was going to talk about some of the other matters that Carla were going to present this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Viv. In terms of the floor plan of the community building, is it okay just to go back to that plan? I just wanted to point out we've had subsequent meetings with the parish, and one of the comments that they made was they like the design and they like the layout. They did want a flexibility of meeting room 2 and 3. So we've got the partition wall that can actually come backwards and forwards. So they've got that flexibility. And the parish also liked the idea of having meeting room 1 with a door onto Andover Road, so Winchester Avenue. So they've got that flexibility of maybe having a pop-up shop. So we've taken on board those comments as well, which is reflecting this updated layout.
And I know there will be detailed elements which we'll need to build into this, such as the ability to have a hatch or servery space from the kitchen into the hall, for instance, and the ability for the office to have a visual look through into the lobby for those coming and entering into the community building. So there are other detailed elements we know we need to apply to this floor plan before we submit it for detailed approval. But yeah, I think it's a really positive step forward with where we were a month or so ago in developing this, developing the community centre further, and one we think will be well received by and deliver well for the community at Kings Barton.
Okay.
Alison, I'm going to stop sharing and let you talk about other elements as well.
You could, okay. Have you got something else you want to share, Alison? Because I'm sure we'll have questions around the Gantt chart and what you were just talking about in relation to the road. We can come back to that, but do you want to continue, Alison, or do you want us to pause and take the questions around the first part that Viv's mostly covered?
Happy because I'm going to be going on to the sports pictures on 2B, so we are departing from this area. Right. So if you want
let's go back to if we can have a look at the Gantt chart, put the Gantt chart up and see what other questions, because I think Councillor Porter had a question, and there may be others. What I'm going to suggest is we go through a sort of first set of questions now, but if you can share this and if you can, the Word document that you showed earlier back with us, if you can share it back to us, and we could then hold our questions and come up with questions for the next meeting. Or if they're urgent, we can relay them to you via whatever channel. So so I know that Councillor Porter had a question, which I think was around about the time when we were looking at the Gantt chart. So Councillor Porter, if you can still remember the question, which I'm sure you can.
Well, no, actually, it was related, I suppose, a little bit to Councillor Todd's question, but it also relates to the County Council's report, and there's a slight difference in the two reports, and I think that the Carla one looks to be more optimistic in its dates, and I just wanted to be sure that the comments that have been taken on that you've been describing, and you talked about the binder course, for instance, being at the point by 2020 or by March, and then going on to a full surface next year. How we've discussed at the County Council, and we know that the conversation has been going on everywhere about adopting these roads, and I wondered at what point you imagine that they would be adopted, because again, this is a challenge to the way in which people use those roads and parking. And I'm not suggesting parking is what I want to be the primary reason for those roads. I want them to people to move along them, but I wondered, how does adoption fit into the Gantt chart, or does it not?
It doesn't really, because this Gantt chart really talks about the delivery of some of the mixed uses in the neighbourhood centre rather than the avenue itself. So there's a whole a 10 times more detailed Gantt chart that sits behind this, which Ian and Rupert have been closer to with Hampshire County Council and our engineers in terms of delivery of the road and the section 278 obligations and obviously the onward adoption of that road. So this was purely focused on giving you the comfort that we can deliver the community centre rather than the detail and nuances of the 278 approval process.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I think at the time it seemed to be a relevant question, but perhaps not so much now. And the other question is that we raised, Councillor Warwick and I have raised the point about school car parking as well, not because we want every child necessarily to walk to school, but we know that there is there are a lot of children who have special circumstances that require them to be taken to school by car or by a vehicle, and we're just wondering whether we can try and create some simple system for them to park satisfactorily that doesn't that was likely to be more than 12 parking spaces in the community centre and 8 in your visitor spaces, which you'll need for your visitors anyway. So that's the challenge that we're putting back to you. It's great to have those spaces in those community centres and the sales centre, but how can we help the arrangement for the school, and how can you help them, bearing in mind that we're not at the point we were hoping to be with 650 spaces or 650 trigger?
Very quick, a quick answer to that question, Councillor Porter, is that we're aware of the parking issue at the school, and we have had and we are having discussions internally as to how we can assist the school, and that's looking for temporary drop-off facilities closer to the school access. They're ongoing conversations, and it's not something that I can say in the forum that we can 100% commit to it, but we are having those conversations. We're aware of the challenges there across the development, so it's an ongoing discussion that we're having.
Thank you. That's really encouraging. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I can see that James Batho, Councillor James Batho, has got a question. James.
Chair, sorry, I'm trying to find a microphone. Yes, I was just wondering, in terms of the connection between the two parts of Kings Barton, that will, sort of create then a fairly long piece of road. Just wondering what the situation is with regard to speed, and though Councillor Porter sort of mentioned there about parking, because again, in that situation regarding the school, the two ends of the road, certainly the southern part has started to be used by parents to park to gain access to the school at drop off and pick up. So what sort of ability will you have to enforce either speed limits or parking restrictions, or what parking restrictions might you put on that road in the interim phase before it's then adopted? Thank you.
I'll try and answer some of those. I mean, ultimately, the Winchester Avenue, as always, and I think I've said this on many previous forums, that we've always designed it. It's designed to have a 20-mile-per-hour speed design. That obviously that we're not in control of enforcing any legal speed limit on that road. Once it's adopted, I imagine it will be a legal speed limit will be 30 miles per hour, unless Hampshire change their mind on that. The designs, and that's part of all the 278 and design works and approval process that we're going through, and the reason why, when we had a central medium strip in the middle of the site, which has now moved to a coloured tarmac on the edge to give the perception the road is narrow. So there are a number of design features on that road which will bring speeds down, and we hope below 20 miles per hour. So it is the gutter strip on that road. It is sort of raised, or they're not so much raised, but different surface treatments along that Winchester Avenue to bring car speeds down. So there are a lot of measures from the northern to the southern end which will bring those speeds down. And I know at present the residents have been keen to put up slow speed signs and others, and maybe there was more of that could go along the verges to make people more aware of the design speeds across the avenue. But ultimately, HCC, as the adoptee, will have the ultimate say on how they manage parking and speeds on that road.
James, Councillor Batho, do you want to follow up?
Yes, the other question I had was, I suppose I'm just concerned that, as you say, that road is used by people sort of now walking, and certainly the crossing section, which will be then sort of reopened, where the track goes through to the school, will then create sort of quite a fast road, potentially without any restrictions. Also, as you say, the Manley Road entrance will still be will be open. what's the potential for traffic to then take that as an alternate route to the Andover Road, creating an even more of a bottleneck at the southern junction with just south of Stony Lane in the interim?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that, other than I think it would be, and knowing the site as I do, I would find it hard to believe that anybody would come into Stony Lane on Manley Road and use the residential neighbourhood as a shortcut to avoid the Andover Road. I think that's, I would suggest it's unlikely, but I'll wait to be proved otherwise.
Early in the morning, the Andover Road will be backed up, especially if the lights don't allow the traffic through, well up north on the Andover Road. So there is a potential for traffic to find that it's easier to go through the actual development than wait on the Andover Road. So I'm just wondering if will do anything in terms of monitoring that, or again, I think we might be talking about those crossing, the lights at that crossing, which are at the moment, there's issues when traffic is going northbound. If the first car that goes northbound is turning right into the estate and is then stopped by the traffic coming southbound, the whole of the traffic for going northbound ended up not actually being able to cross over. So I think in terms of that junction, I just find that I just think there's going to be potential issues, coming with the sort of change of potential priority for traffic.
Note your concerns, and I'm sure that will be monitored, and I'm sure that's part of the discussions between our technical and engineering team and HCC in terms of taking the detailed proposals further. Apologies, I can't give you any more comfort at this stage, personally.
So,
thank you.
I think the update from the County Council came to us quite late, and we've not really had a really good opportunity to go through that in fine detail, but I know that one of the conditions on the new trigger is to improve the flow rate on the southern junction, isn't it? I think. At least that's my understanding. Maybe I've got the wrong view on it. Is that right, Viv?
I'm afraid I don't know, having not been involved in those discussions, but you might be right, Chair.
Okay.
I've been dealing with the DOV, the deed of variation, and that hasn't been raised.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something we'll have to pick up, and if you guys don't know the answer, then we need to pick that up separately. But I think is
it useful to read the exact words that are on the document, because it was circulated, and this is the and it's a condition of their extension. I mean, it says the Highway Authority has reviewed the evidence base and is satisfied to the impacts of the safe operation of the highway are acceptable. This relates to the delay, with some additional works to the southern access junction to optimise capacity and provide a new pedestrian crossing on the Winchester arm of the junction to the operation of the highway. So I suppose, are you aware of that, Viv? And do you know when the timetable is for that to happen?
The team dealing with the 278 process, 100% aware of that. Yeah.
And do you have a timetable? Is it on your critical path schedule? Is it one of the things that's?
It will be. Yes, it will be, in terms of the wider delivery of all of that. Rupert's kindly shown his face and dropped on. So.
Sorry, Viv. I don't know if my speaker's picking me up, so apologies, because I've tried to come in a couple of times. Hi, Chairman and councillors. Yeah, we are aware of it. And we are looking at programming it in at the moment, so I can't give timescales yet, but it's something we can come back to you on in due course. So yeah, it's on our work schedules at the moment.
So Rupert, it'll be picked up in the 278 works.
I don't quite know how it is. Yeah, so it's the works on the existing. So it will be under 278 works, but it's slightly out of sync. So I don't quite know. We're trying to sit down with HCC and discuss several parts to this. All the works associated with Winchester Avenue and Andover at the moment, and we will pick that up in that conversation and see how they want to slot it into the works.
Okay.
Certainly, just as a sort of to close the point on that one, I mean, that is speaking as a county councillor and from a highways perspective, that Southern Junction is really, as Councillor Batho mentioned, starting to become quite a problem for the rest of the city in terms of how it flows because of the extra traffic. I mean, that's always been the issue, is that if you have two flows of traffic coming into it from the north, one from the south, something will need to be done. Otherwise, it's going to become really quite a problem in the city. So I think anything that can be done to get clarity on that sooner rather than later, and if we could maybe have a written update ahead of the next meeting in person, that would be great.
Okay.
That's possible.
Okay. Can we ask Alison to, I think Alison, you overall project lead on this, aren't you? Am I right?
From a planning perspective?
Is that a Rupert question or is that an Alison question? I never know what your organisational structure
In
is.
terms of an update on the kind of the delivery and the 278 approval side of that question, I'll come back with an update. That's not a problem.
That'd be great. Okay. I think the point that Councillor Batho is raising around the risk, if you like, of people treating Kings Barton as a rat run, I think, and I think it's a problem during the phase when the road is not adopted. So it's that, you know, if we can narrow that time period down so that it isn't just an open rat run where you've got no enforcement capability, then once it's adopted, then it becomes a county council problem on how to do to deal with enforcement. But of course, by then the whole road should be going through it. So it's just, if that period of time gets extended to being quite a long time, then we've got this open risk for quite a long period of time. So in terms of questions, I've got 3 more lined up at the moment. First is Councillor Morris, second is Councillor Porter, and then Councillor Batho wants to come back in. So in that order, Councillor Morris.
Oh yes, it's picking up on Councillor Porter's point about the access to the primary school. Given its location, the alleviates part of that problem, I think, if it was operational. So it's to ask what is preventing that being brought forward as a way of alleviating the issue.
I think we missed the first part of that question, I'm afraid. He went silent, so there was just a little delay, so I didn't quite catch the whole question, I'm afraid.
Okay, with the community centre car park, if that was in place, that would alleviate some of the problems with the traffic access to the primary school. So could that be brought forward as a way of addressing that issue?
I see. So the question was, can we bring forward the car park forward? I don't know if that might be a challenge in terms of build, because you're building a car park and a community centre all in the same location. So I'd have thought from a handover delivery perspective and a liability, public liability of how we're using that car park, I suspect we will want to hand over the car park and the community centre in one go to the parish council or to Winchester. So that I believe should be the process that we go through, rather than having something as a temporary solution in and around a building site.
Okay, Councillor Morris, is that okay? Have you got a follow up? Assume not. I'll move on to Councillor Porter.
Thank you. As I said at the beginning, I've got a non-prejudicial interest because I'm also a county councillor, and Councillor Warwick and I were at the meeting with Councillor Lerney, and it was very clear that in order to accept the trigger point of 1,000 dwellings, the delay to that figure, that a capacity study was done of Manley Road and the Southern Junction, and I'm sure that you're all aware of this as well, and that capacity showed that actually the Northern Junction, the Manley Road bit could take it, but the Southern Junction, it could only work if there was a MOVA form of signals there to change it to be more responsive to the 3-way system, and there was a crossing point. And in my notes it says we'll be going in soon. So I'm really surprised to hear that that doesn't seem to have been fixed, despite the fact it's also in the county council report. I just wonder if Rupert would like to comment on that.
Yeah, timings wise, Councillor Porter, I wasn't aware of the soon element. I'll find out what the commitment was, but it's, as Alison's already alluded to, it's a 278 element of works, and it's also involving traffic lights. And my experience with anything to do with traffic signals is it doesn't happen quickly. Okay. So let me find out a bit more on it and come back to the group.
My other note says improve the Southern Junction in brackets HCC signals team.
Yeah, so we'll be talking to the HCC signals team. They're part of the meeting I'm trying to set up at the moment and trying to establish how long it will take. But yeah, we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully carry on, Jackie.
I was going to say, and the other thing is that Councillor Warwick and I were warned that speed limiting instructions notification would be coming to us soon, and that we would be required to discuss that, and we will be doing that together, obviously, but with the officers, and Councillor Warwick might want to comment on that.
Yeah, I think that was part of the TRO proposals, Jackie, wasn't it? So we would get the initial heads up, you and I, and then make a decision on that.
And we were keen that Andover Road and Winchester Avenue were done at the same time, weren't we? Because we don't want one to be fast and one to be slow, or one to be slow and one to be slower.
We don't want a two-speed system, that's for sure.
No, we don't.
Any more than we want two-tier policing. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully, Rupert, if the county council think they are in favour of this change in the traffic lights and so on, that will hopefully speed things up from their end, which I imagine sometimes is the delays are getting it through the administrivia of county council work. So,
yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an optimist. Councillor Batho.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in fact, I think Councillor Porter has asked or made the point that I was going to make in terms of the need for this work as a result of the acceptance of the moving of the trigger from 650 to 1,000. So, given it's a sort of criteria for that, then surely we should have that as part of the work, you know, that should be brought forward prior to that acceptance of that delay. Also, I think, and again, I think Councillor Porter maybe inferred it, the fact that now the north will be connected to the south through the Winchester Avenue will mean that there's going to be increased. At the moment, the junction really only serves the southern part of the development, but now potentially there are going to be those that would have exited via Manley would actually now come down Winchester Avenue and actually join at you know, sort of the southern end, and likewise there will now be potentially more that are turning right going north, and therefore causing that, you know, sort of delay to traffic, to the remainder of traffic, you know, sort of travelling north, as there might be more traffic that will want to make that turn. So I just feel that that is something that, you know, we really need, because not only from a Carla point of view, but as, you know, sort of city councillors, we'll start to sort of get some feedback on that if we are going to then start to, you know, sort of have delays, not only in terms of the development itself, but in terms of the north-south flow on Andover Road. So I think we just need to make sure that isn't just brought back to another meeting, but we have an update urgently. And I'd ask the chair to make sure that's put into the minutes, and we actually then put a date that will come back to us as a committee. Thank you.
Okay, Chair. Councillor Batho, I'm quite comfortable to have that as an urgent thing. I think it would be very helpful, Viv, if you can share the initial document, I would call it a Word document, but it might be another form, and we can then compare and contrast with the county council statement and start to ask questions. And I think the sooner we can get some clarity on what is going to happen, and maybe, you know, some of the county councillors here, of whom we've got 3 very influential county councillors, if there's a need to nudge a few things in the county council, then hopefully they can help you. So if you can share any feedback with us soon, that would be great.
Of course, no problem at all.
Thank you. Right, we've had quite a few questions around the Winchester Avenue and the junctions. I have a hunch if once we've seen those and gone through them in more detail, some of us will have more questions for you, but we can hold those over until either a meeting in your High Street office, or maybe at the next Kings Barton Forum, so that we can at least make public some of the findings of any of those conversations. Just going back to the Gantt chart, which was more about the mixed use facilities, just want to check that if there's any further questions around that chart and your commentary about when things are going to happen and the sequencing. Are you able to put the Gantt chart back up? Sorry, Viv, I'm
quite all right.
I don't have it on my.
I was expecting more airtime on the community centre floor plan than the Gantt chart, but there we go.
Well, we can come to that. I'm sure your wish can come true. It's more, I'm just trying to do things sort of systematically here, and just check with councillors whether there's any further questions they want to raise right now about the Gantt chart here. At the moment, I'm not seeing any hands raised. I have a hunch that I had some questions, but I think if we have the Gantt chart, you will answer some of my questions, which is how do we track and monitor tangible progress? So your Gantt chart is very helpful, as that allows us to sort of keep an eye on are things actually happening. So you're kind of answering my questions with providing that sort of information. I'm not seeing any hands up, so was there anything else? Do you want to get back to the community floor plan, and I'll just check whether there's any questions around that. Maria, have you got any questions you want to raise before we wrap up on this section? Not seeing any. Right, good. So I'm not sure if this is, I think it's an Alison question. It was around the next points on the agenda I asked you to cover were the 2B sports pitches. Would you like to talk to those and just update us all on what is happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll probably be aware we sent, let me know when you can see my screen.
You can see joining a Teams meeting.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Alison.
Brilliant, thanks.
Perfect.
So as following the last forum meeting, we gave an undertaking that we'd consult with Manley Road residents, Headbourne Worthy Parish Council and Winchester. This is a copy of the letter that we sent out in February. So it's just summarising the phase 2B pitches, and it just summarised and set out the main changes, which were the full-size pitches were going to be not 3G, but they're going to be full-size grass pitches. Also, we've just clarified about the fencing and no floodlighting, which was the feedback and discussions that we had with Manley Road residents because they'd raised concerns. This letter also included a plan that just summarised and reflects what we submitted for planning. So it just shows that the pavilion building, the 2 pitches, which, as I said, are grass, the running pit, the running track, and also a trim trail. So this was just to give Manley Road residents and the parish council an understanding of what we're going to be proposing as the discharge of condition, which we'll be submitting shortly.
Okay, good. Any questions from members here? I've got 2 up here. Let me just see. Got Councillor Porter first, and then Councillor Todd.
Thank you. I was really impressed by you taking note of what residents said. That was really appreciated. Thank you. You've made great efforts for that. Thank you very much indeed. My little concern is that I think playing football quite close to the road, there will need to be a formal fence between the road and the site.
Yeah.
I don't see that on the plan, but I didn't see whether it was there or not, but I know that you're cognizant of that need. How will we address that?
It was actually annotated on it, fencing to be confirmed.
Right.
There's a trajectory assessment that we would have to do in terms of a ball trajectory, and the fencing would be put up where it's required. We didn't want to make it imposing, so it could be netting. So we didn't want to fence it in. So that would be done as part of the discharge of condition.
So and netting would be quieter probably as well, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So how will that be finalised?
So in terms of, we'll have to do the assessment once we've got the final layout of the sports pitches, and then we'll do this trajectory assessment, which is done by an independent party, and then they tell us where the fencing and the height has to be, and that'll be part of that application.
Thank you. Can I just ask a second question, which is that the grass pitches obviously don't form instantly. So when do you imagine that they would actually be playable?
It's a learning experience for me as well, because I wasn't aware. So we're going to complete the pitches by next summer, but then it needs 12 months bedding in, so you can't play it. So it's actually the following. So that's why we're bringing it forward. We're accelerating the construction programme, so we start bedding in
27.
Summer 27. Yes. But residents will see activity in terms of forming the pitches, and also the pavilion building. We'll go up the shell of that as soon as we can this year. So, but there is that 12 months.
And bearing in mind it's on the brow of the hill, that one shouldn't have a drainage problem. But are you putting any formal drainage in under the pitches?
Yeah, that was one of the sort of commitments that we made from the change from a 3G pitch to the grass pitch. We wanted to make sure that they were usable as much as possible through the winter. So it's an up-spec drainage system that would also be included in the package of information to discharge that condition. So it's an up-spec of the drainage.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful. And last question is: will there be somewhere to store the goalposts in the summer in the pavilion?
In the pavilion, there is stores in the pavilion. I'd need to check how big the stores are, but I can take that away.
Just because we've got to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
And if they can't be taken there, they can be taken a long way away.
No problem. I will take that away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor, yeah, thank you. And just so I could reiterate, I've had back channel conversations with the Manley Road group, and they've indicated they're comfortable with the plans as they are put forward at the moment. So thank you for that. I've got Councillor Todd.
Yeah, I just wanted to get confirmation that we've got the right amount of pitch space for the development now, because obviously 3G gives you a lot of capacity, but I think, if I understand it, the purpose of this is to service the development. And do we have enough football pitches now for the development? Is that the right amount based on, I don't know how these things are assessed, but I assume there's some method of forecasting what the likely usage is from people who live there for recreational purposes.
I don't know if this was one for Winchester officers, but in terms of the sports pitches, it is in accordance with the loss plan in terms of the open space plan that's been approved on the design code. There was actually a point that I was going to come on to in terms of the full-size Mooga that was considered. We've been asked to look out for future phase. That is something that we are looking at. So there could be an additional large full-scale Mooga near the railway line as well, in addition to everything else that we've currently submitted. We're just looking at that from a technical perspective with levels and the railway line.
But it's consistent with the original assessment and planning application.
Yes, the size of the pitches are, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's really helpful. And the mugger, that sounds great. Okay. That was my question, really. Just had it answered.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So at the moment we're looking at delivery, it looking like it's been delivered in 2026, but in practice it will need full 12 months before it's all greened up and ready for the I was going to say it, I won't use that word, for players to play on. Have you got any thoughts about how you manage that process? Because people, if they can easily get into it, they will use it. So what are your plans? What is Carla's plans to ensure that what you deliver to the parish council has not been wrecked by people using it prematurely?
I'd anticipate to have to be fenced to ensure people can't go on to the pitches. So So we would have to erect temporary fencing.
Okay. And I think that will need some discussion with the parish council as to the timing of their handing over, because I think some people there are getting very angsty about the prospect of it almost coming too soon and then not being able to see where people would park, and that's creating a whole load of questions which are difficult to answer. Because I don't think there's any provision for parking actually on the recreation park, is there?
No, there isn't. In terms of the intent of the pitch is to serve the local development. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that will be good to have that conversation with the parish council so they understand the timing as well as the actual design of it. Councillor Batho. Councillor Batho?
Yeah, thank you. Just my mic wasn't responding. Thank you. I just wanted to get confirmation in terms of the mugger. There seem to be different sort of sort of expressions of sort of support or sort of commitment to it. Is Carla sort of committing to actually provide a mugger in the area that was identified near the railway line? Because initially in the sort of conversation that seemed to be the case, but I think Alison, you just then mentioned sort of subject to sort of surveying. So I didn't want it sort of to be a situation where we had accepted sort of the sports facilities as you're sort of committed to, you've just presented on the basis that a mugger will be provided, and then in sort of 6 months time we suddenly find, oh, unfortunately the levels or whatever isn't sufficient for a mugger. So I just wanted to get a commitment from you that mugger will be being provided, and it will be provided to the necessary sort of specifications for the teenage sort of age residents who will then be using it.
Yeah, in terms of it is a commitment that we've made that we would look into providing the Muga, the large scale Muga. The levels have been looked at initially, and it looks like we can provide it subject to engineering work and suitable fencing. So that is something that's sort of ongoing at the moment, but we know that there is this requirement that's been sort of raised, and it is something that we are actively looking at, and it is our intent, as long as we can provide it from a technical perspective, which is looking like it is possible. So I probably can give a definitive answer on the next forum meeting, but it is something that we have sort of said we would definitely be looking at, and we would be willing to provide that full size Muga on that future phase.
So that could be a condition of the planning application for the sports pitches that you're putting in. We'd be happy with that.
The sports pitches on RM2B have already been approved, so it's just a discharge of condition. It could be part of when we do the future phases. I think it's 4A, so as part of that it would be a requirement that we would deliver a Muga on that phase.
Yeah, and if I understand it correctly, Alison, the location is in the master plan, the location shows a small sized grassy pitch. I don't want to call it football because there are other sports other than football, but it would go in on that site and would take up a reasonable amount of space. So there is a question to be considered as to the relative value. I know where I would stand personally, but I think that's something to be weighed up. But personally, I'm in favour of the full-size Muga. But I think there's that discussion needs to probably be thought through by some of the members here in the meeting. Okay, that's great. Any further questions for Alison on the 2B pitches? Okay, we're good on that. I think we've covered all the agenda items that we sort of asked you to cover. There was a question around the phase 2B access on where I think you're needing access on Pinsent Road And that has caused some consternation because it wasn't in the CEMP, which I don't quite know what that actually stands for, but it's effectively the access route for the site vehicles. Could you just talk us through where you're at with that and whether that and how long that might continue for?
Yes, so the phase 2B construction management plan, the approved document, anticipated the construction route would be through Manley Road and then down Winchester Avenue into phase 2B. Yeah. Unfortunately, because of the works that we're doing to link 1B and 2A, the drainage works, it's preventing us being able to access into 2B via that route. So for a temporary period until April, we're having to use Pinsett Road to access into 2B, and then after April we then revert back to the approved route. So it's just a temporary unforeseen because we didn't anticipate we'd be doing the drainage and doing all the works along Winchester Avenue that would prevent that. So it's only a temporary measure. We have asked as part of the updated construction management plan that once we've reverted back to the approved route through Winchester Avenue, that Pinsett Road could be used for the subcontractors' vehicles. So it'd be just cars and small vans, and that's still to be determined by Winchester City Council. Yeah. We've got established, if you've been there recently, we've got the road from Pinsett, and actually the road extends into our site. So you've got a tarmac section, and we've got wheel washes as well provided at both of those entrance points.
You've just anticipated the question I was going to ask. So great. Okay. So it's only for a limited period of time, and you've got wheel washers and so on in place. I'm just going to ask if members who I know other members have faced this question, so I just want to check that we're all comfortable with that position, at least politically. Obviously it's a decision, it's a regulatory decision, I think, isn't it? It's a way to think about it for the planning team to have a look at. Not seeing any hands up, so I think we're all comfortable. Good. Right, let me just check where we are at with our agenda. I think, unless there's anything else you guys, Carla, want to cover, we have covered all the items I was expecting you to cover. Are we good? Right, I'm seeing nods, so I think we're good. So
yes, I think you're good.
Right. So item number 8 on the agenda is to note the forum meeting dates for 25-26 in municipal year. These are all 6 p.m. start. So the next meeting will be on the 26th of June 2025. The one after that will be 9th of October 25, and then the equivalent meeting to this one next year is on Monday, the 2nd of March 2026. But that's all in the agenda, so hopefully you've got those dates locked in already. What else? Have we got any other? Right. Just in terms of setting expectations. So if Viv and Alison and Rupert, you're able to share the 2 documents, the Gantt chart and the other document, with us fairly soon, that would be great. And I'm sure some of us will have a close look at it relative to the County Council statement, and we'll probably have some questions to deal with soon, but also questions for at the next forum. And in particular, I think we'd like to track progress against the Gantt chart, as that gives us interim milestones that can give us confidence that things are now progressing per schedule. And then I think it would be very helpful to hear about progress on the community hall, again, just to make sure that all's well on that side of things. I think it'd be very helpful to hear from the Headbourne Parish Council the progress on the management proposal for running the community hall, so that we're all comfortable that there is a sound proposal there. So I hope, just check if Maria's still on the call.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I know it's being discussed, so hopefully there'll be progress on that by the next.
Yes, okay. We'll shoot meet in April with the first proposal for the management of the building by June, and then working on that. proposal.
Okay, right. That'd be great. So with that, I think we are through to any other business, but hopefully we've covered everything that we need to cover this time. And I would ask I suppose I should ask members if there's any other items you would like to see brought up at the next meeting. Actually, that's a faux pas on my part. Anyone got any specific things other than what I've said already? I'm not seeing any hands. So shall we call it a wrap at
sorry,
20?
no, sorry,
Oh.
sorry. I just wanted to raise the point we had discussed earlier about writing to the county council or suggesting that you might like to seek clarification on that section regarding the S278 for the road traffic on at the Southern Junction, because it's clear that that it's not quite it's considered an urgent matter by the county council to satisfy between 650 and 1,000 homes, and that hasn't appeared to be communicated, possibly, I think is the word I'd like to use. And also whether we could have some progress on the adoption and potential TRO on Winchester Avenue, please. Because again, we discussed the fact at the moment there are cones all the way up that road, and I think the conversation about parking has been quite consistent throughout this meeting, and we do want to know what form of traffic management there will be to prevent parking as it happens at the moment. I think it's mainly contractors' lorries, but contractors' vehicles, but those contractors' vehicles will continue to happen. So how will that be managed is the question when the road is actually open.
Yeah. And bearing in mind, Jackie, are you asking if the chair of the Kings Barton Forum can ask these questions, or
I'm asking really for clarification back from the report that we've received today, and if the forum is minded to and agrees, it would be useful to have those 2 points of clarification, so that we're sitting here with that information.
I think
as the road opens, because it's going to be open at the end of March, and we'll need to know.
I think we had a commitment from Mr. Woodcock to provide the information from the Carla end, but it does sound like that the committee needs to ask for clarification from the county end as well. Just make sure we're all singing from the same songbook.
Absolutely, that everybody's got the same order of priority.
And particularly actually knowing how siloed the county is, making sure that the bit of the county that would put in a TRO and make it, for example, illegal to park on the highway is actually ready to do that. That would be quite important. And then there's the small matter of then getting somebody to enforce it as well. But let's cross one bridge at a time.
Okay. No, I'm quite happy to participate in that. I'm sure I will need a little bit of guidance as to exactly who to write to at the county council.
Well,
whether it comes from me or
I'd say the county has submitted this to the forum, so it would be appropriate for the forum to submit that back to the person at the county.
Any one of the three county councillors can follow up. It's not a problem, but I think the response comes from the forum. Whoever received it is the person who writes back.
We meet quite regularly with the strategic planning officer, so it's Ben Clifton you need to write to, Steve. But he meets regularly with us, with Councillor Porter and myself, and Councillor Todd and Councillor Lerney as well. So I think you're right. Let's tie everybody up so we're all agreeing the same things.
And the other bits of the council that do things like TROs need to be triggered on all of this as well, I think.
An adoption.
Point taken. About
Brilliant. Thank you.
Organisational structures. Okay, with that, thank you very much, everybody, for bearing with us. We are going to close here at 7:45, and hope you all have a nice evening, and we'll catch up with some of you in the next few days, no doubt.